Hello, everyone. Welcome to week number 4 in Science 200. I'm not going to go into my personal stuff. I'm just going to get into what you've got going on this week. So, last week you found some sources, hopefully some scientific sources, that support your question that you're asking about your topic. Hopefully you found some good sources and you were able to gather information that you can then use for your paper that you're writing. We shall see with the work that you do this week. So you're also going to work in your textbook in the Sumo web text, chapter 4, work through those exercises. This week it's all about communication to your particular audience. So you will have to decide this week who you're going to present, fictitiously, who you are going to present your topic to. This is really important in everyday life. Any presentation that you ever make, if you make it in front of your church, if you make it in front of the PTA, if you make it in front of your work colleagues, wherever it is, you have to figure out who your audience is. For me, I've been doing science for a long time, and I have presented scientific work, scientific experiments, scientific talks to preschoolers, to people in nursing homes, to middle school kids, to high school kids, to college classes, to adults, to my colleagues, to professionals in the area, to medical doctors. Yeah, just about every group of people that you can imagine I have presented to. And every time I started on a presentation, that was the first thing that I had to consider. What do these people know about my topic? What do they want to know? Right? If you're explaining the economy to a first grader, there are a lot of things that you're going to leave out because the GDP, stuff like that. You don't explain that to a first grader. You could explain supply and demand. That makes a lot of sense, and you can put it on that level for a first grader. So you have to figure out your audience, what they know, what they want to know, and what is going to motivate them to keep listening to you. You're going to have to figure out why this topic is important to them. That's very important. That will keep their interest. So you're going to work through that. You're also going to look at the levels of scientific communication. So there are all different ways that scientists communicate. First of all, there's the primary literature, where you are publishing in a very, very specific journal to your peers. So colleagues of yours who do research in this very same area. We all know the same terminology. We all know the same jargon. We've all read the same background information. And we're just examining different questions in this particular field. So that's the primary literature. That's what's difficult to read because there is a lot of jargon. On the next level down, and I have suggested this several times in the discussion for week 3, take a look at review articles. So review articles are also written by scientists, but it's a scientist who has done an extensive literature review, and that person is explaining in more common language everything that is known about that particular topic. So this is good for 2 reasons. It's simpler language. It's much easier to understand. It's not filled with piles and piles of data. There's lots of conclusions in there. And the other thing is, at the end of the article, you will see a tremendously long list of references because this person has really researched this topic. This is where you can find a whole bunch of really good resources, and you don't have to dig through those thousands that you get, say, in the Shapiro Library search. So review articles are wonderful. And then you come on down and you get to a journal, or really it's a magazine called Scientific American, which is written on an everyday person's kind of language level, but it's about scientific topics, and they're all based in science. So there's something like that. Then you have news articles, and then you get on the web and you have everybody's opinion under the sun. You know that. You and I both see that every day. Hardly any validity to what a lot of people say on the web. They're whole organizations really that are based on fear mongering and all sorts of things. So you really have to look at the credibility of your sources. And I think a couple of you found, you went to a website and you tried to figure out who even wrote it. I have seen that before, and you can't even figure it out. There's no authors, there's no references, nothing. Just somebody's opinion. They just stuck some junk out there on the web. So make sure your sources are credible. Okay, so that's what you're doing this week. Check on your feedback on your questions. Most of you did an excellent job on the questions, but do check to make sure I'm not suggesting any changes. You're going to turn in your rough draft this week, and I'm going to go through the rubric with you in just a minute so that you'll know which extra sections you have, and you're supposed to be putting this all together. So your introduction that you've already written, your question that you've already written, and then you're going to add 2 more sections to it, and I'll explain those in a second. No discussion board postings this week or next week. The next discussion boards that you will do will be in week 6. Okay, so let's take a look at this rubric for this rough draft for your paper that you'll be turning in. So the introduction, you have already written this. Go back and look at my feedback though, because I wrote a lot of comments about the introductions. Watch out for these keywords in a rubric. So if it says describe the issue, that is never one sentence. There is no way that you can describe something in one sentence. That's at least a whole paragraph. A paragraph is at least 3 sentences. It can be 5. It can be 10 sentences. Describe the issue. So if your issue is ocean acidification, what is ocean acidification? If you're examining GMOs, you have to explain what GMOs are. You always have to introduce your topic to your audience, because there's going to be somebody in the audience that doesn't know what you're talking about. So you have to introduce it. And then you're going to explain why your issue is significant. That's very important, because you can talk about ocean acidification all day long, and if people don't understand why it's important, they aren't going to listen to you. They could care less if it doesn't affect them. So I'm just saying. But you can have lofty levels of significance. Affects the whole biosphere, ocean acidification is. So anyway, why is it significant? You've already written this, but go back and read my feedback. Describe your 3 scientific resources or references that you have. Okay. Now what's important about this is that you tell me what you learned from your sources. Okay? Don't just tell me what they are. That's not enough. You got to tell me what you learned. So this would be like I did research a long time ago when we had card catalogs and you actually went and read books and journals and stuff. But anyway, you'd find an article that you liked and you would read through it. And I never had enough money as a grad student to make copies of everything. So I would read it and I'd have my note cards out, or a notepad at least, and jot down what I learned from that particular source. And of course, then I wrote down all the information about that source too. So this is what you should do with your sources. Figure out what's important and what you have learned from that particular reference. This you're going to include in the second part of the introduction. And then last week, you developed a specific question. Be sure to include this and look at my feedback to see if you need to change that a little bit. All right, now this next part is new. The body of your work is new. You're going to identify your audience. I just talked about that. You got to figure out who you're presenting to. And then you got to figure out how to tailor your message to that particular audience. What are you going to have to consider? Are you going to have to consider the terminology that you're using? Are you going to have to consider the graphics that you use? Graphics are terribly important in presentations. Nobody wants to read a whole bunch of words sticking out there in front of them, as I have this slide up in front of you, right? Okay, this is not a bad example because this is your actual grading rubrics. I didn't write all this, okay? So anyway, good slides have graphics on them because that gives an emotional response from your audience. That's what you're looking for. You're trying to draw them into your presentation. Okay, so figure out how you're going to tailor your message to your audience. Give specific examples of what you're going to do. Now that's in the rubric there. So I'm going to be looking for specific examples of what you are going to do to help communicate to your audience. All right, then this next part is a little bit tricky for a lot of folks. Identify some natural science principles that have to do with your topic. So if you're doing electric vehicles, for example, you're going to have to explain electricity. That's the principle, because vehicles run on electricity. And how can you produce electricity? That might be another natural principle. There are all different ways. There's solar, there's gasoline powered, there's all kinds of other combustion products, combustion fuels like propane and alcohol and all kinds of things. There are gases, there's water, okay, so you get it. Other natural principles, like if you're doing ocean acidification, the carbon cycle is really important because carbon dioxide is in the air and diffuses into the ocean. That's part of the carbon cycle of the earth. Biodiversity conservation. Ecosystems, just what is an ecosystem? How is the health of an ecosystem maintained? That's a natural principle. If you have any questions about these, please email me because I can give you hints. I can give you lots of ideas. If you get stumped, ask me. I'm here for you, okay? Explain the principles and how they apply to your issue or question. That's going to be easier as soon as you figure those principles out. Okay? And then, if you get stumped, like I just said, ask me for help. I'm here. I will email you. I've been kind of on and off the grid here for the last 2 weeks, but I am checking my email messages. So please let me know if you have questions. I will answer them as quickly as I can. You know, one reason that I'm in this course, I guess we could get a robot to do this, but anyway, the reason that I'm in this course is to help you. So I'm here and I'm willing to help you. Please call on me if you need me. This picture right here I took in Scotland, isn't it beautiful? Scotland is a beautiful place. If you ever get a chance to go there, I highly, highly recommend it. Such a beautiful place. That was in May of this year. It was a wonderful time and lots of great nature. I've shown you some of my pictures, but anyway, that was just a stream back behind our hotel where we were staying. Can you believe that? Have you ever seen a hotel in the U.S. that has scenery like that? So anyway, I hope that you have a good week this week, and I'm here for you. Just let me know if you need any help.